Hey guys, finally welcome back to a Tuesday bonus video. Today we're checking out this Atermiter X79 Socket 2011 motherboard, which is the cheapest 2011 mainboard that I have tested on the channel. And this is a review unit sent to us from an AliExpress seller. It sells for $46.99, but unfortunately no free shipping. You're looking at $10.15 for that. So do compare prices to get the best deal. So we have been working with quite a few Socket 2011 parts recently, so I have a good idea of what to look out for and if they have cut any corners to get to this price. Well, we will find out soon. I will cover the good and the bad, because at the end of the day, it is you guys that I work for. So here we have the box that the mainboard came in. Inside we have the mainboard, of course. We're getting an I/O shield. There is a solder cable and some thermal paste. And we also get a fan adapter. So this screws onto the 2011 socket and it lets you install these cheap Chinese AliExpress coolers like the Snowman that mount onto an AMD socket. I've done all my testing with two CPUs. Here we have the E5-2650V2. This is a very good value 8-core processor, but to test overclocking and the BIOS, we also have a E5-1650V2. This one is unlocked, so we will see how far we can overclock this processor. They also sent us a 16GB DDR3 registered ECC memory kit running at 1866 MHz. You're looking at 3312 plus $491 for shipping. So we can straight away see that this is a very compact mainboard for micro ADX, and here is the Socket 2011, and this mainboard is compatible with Sandy Bridge and Ivory Bridge CPUs ranging from 4-core to 12-core processors, and there are lots of options available. My personal favorite are the E5-2630V2 and the 2650V2 for locked 6-core and 8-core processors. But if you're into overclocking and you want something around 4 GHz, check out the 1650V2. There is some VRM cooling. It's nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. And it did handle the 1650V2 with an overclock, running games and benchmarks without any issues. We do have 4 memory slots. Unfortunately, this mainboard does not support quad channel, only dual channel, so we will be missing out a little bit of performance. So in this regard, I recommend that you pick the 2650V2, for example, because that one has an 1866 memory controller, and if you then use 1866 MHz DDR3 memory in dual channel configuration, you will still get fairly decent performance. The BIOS does support overclocking the RAM speed, so if you have some slower 1333 or 1600 MHz memory, you can overclock that to 1866. Cheap RAM prices is also the highlight of the 2011 platform, so if you're looking at building something affordable, but you still want 32 or 64 GB of RAM even for a low price, then this platform can be quite interesting. These mainboards out of China usually do not come with a CMOS battery, so you have to purchase one yourself. At the back with the ports, we can already see our first cost-cutting measure. We get 2 PS2, gigabit Ethernet and audio ports, but all the USB ports are only USB 2. So no USB 3 on this mainboard. That means if you're using a lot of external hard drives, card readers, thumb drives, and you're copying a lot of information, then this mainboard is probably not the ideal choice for you. It does have a PCI 16X and 1X slot, so you could install a USB 3 controller here. However, the proximity to the video card is so close that it will block the fans, so once again, not ideal. The mainboard has a M.2 NVMe slot. You can boot from it. I'm testing with a 1TB SSD and we're getting full performance. So that was quite a surprise, to be honest. Other mainboards fail in this regard with the speed being only half. So that was a real highlight. Also, in terms of storage controllers, the 2 green connectors, these are SATA 3. And the 2 black ones are SATA 2. Now I tested these ports with the King Spec 960GB SSD. In a past video, I've been asked to run some benchmarks. So I ran Crystal Disk Mark and I will put the results from the benchmark on the screen. There are quite a few headers here. This one goes for the front audio. We have a 3-pin header for a case fan. This is for the front panel connectors, power button, reset, power LED, hard drive LED, that sort of stuff. We have a serial port here. This is a debug connector, and I've been told you can connect a programmer here and flash the BIOS. And we also have 2 USB 2 ports, and there are a few more connectors over here, which I'm unsure as to what they do. This one is for the PC speaker, but I'm not quite sure what this one does. Here are the ATX power connectors, and there's also a 4-pin connector here for the CPU fan. The seller specifically mentioned that one of the highlights of this mainboard is that it comes with a proper X79 chipset. Surprised me a little bit because this is such a budget mainboard, and usually you find the X79 chipset on more expensive mainboards. Also, the article description is a little bit sketchy. It mentions that you might get different revisions of the board and different chipsets, so it all sounded a little bit odd. So of course I had to have a look. I removed the chipset cooler, and there is a part number on the chipset with C602. So yes, I believe this is legit. It does have a X79 chipset. Are there any benefits over the other motherboards that use Q77 and various other chipsets? I don't think so, because all the important stuff like the PCI Express connections and the memory controller, that is all inside the processor. And now we're going to have a look at the BIOS and see if there are any overclocking options. So just like all the other Chinese motherboards, this is a very generic BIOS. And lo and behold, as soon as I installed the 1650 V2, which is unlocked, we get access to the multiplier ratios. It maxes out at 42x, so 4.2 gigahertz was the highest speed I could get out of the processor, but that was stable. I could run games, so yeah, that was a positive surprise. And like mentioned earlier, it also supports overclocking the RAM speed, which is nice if you have some old and slow desktop memory already lying around that you might consider using with this mainboard. And finally, most of these mainboards do not have a working sleep mode, and this is also one of those. If you activate sleep mode in Windows 10, it will just turn the screen off, but the machine will still run at full power and almost consume the same amount of power compared to idle. So it just saves a few watts of power. So once again, another mainboard where the sleep mode does not work. So guys, the Atermiter LGA 2011 mainboard, what is the verdict? So I like the price. It's low price and good value. We have RAM and CPU overclocking out of the box without having to modify the BIOS. That is nice. The M.2 slot works at full speed. We're getting a proper X79 chipset, although I'm not sure what the benefits are. If you know, to leave a comment down below. We're getting half decent VRM cooling, which did the job fine for my testing. And we also get 2 SATA 3 ports, which is nice. A lot of these mainboards only give you a single one. On the negative side, we do not get any USB 3. The sleep mode doesn't work, and we're only getting dual channel memory, which is a big letdown. The quad channel DDR3 memory interface is one of the highlights of the LGA 2011 platform. Also negative is the shipping costs. Other sellers sell this mainboard for similar price, but do not charge for postage. And finally, the article description is a little bit sketchy, mentioning that you might get a different version of this mainboard with a different chipset. So that sounds a little bit sketchy. So guys, all in all, what I like about this is that we have another option, and you can't have too many options. So if spending $75 to $80 for one of the mainboards that we reviewed in the past is too much for you, maybe this mainboard has just the right price. It's not perfect. It's got its pros and cons. So it really comes down to what do you need this mainboard for. But if it's for a basic gaming PC where USB 3 might not be that important, or a working sleep mode, then yeah, this can save you around $30 compared to one of the nicer mainboards. And that means you can buy either the RAM or the CPU for free, basically, because for $30 you can get roughly a 16 gigabyte memory kit or a CPU like the 2630 V2. And that sums up this mainboard. I will put links provided by the seller down below in the description. And if you have any questions, feedbacks, comments, leave them down below. As always, I read every single comment. And that's it for our Tuesday bonus video. Do let me know what you think. I read every single comment. Give it a like, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And our regular content continues on Friday. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you soon.